All right, out here in my usual spot with the new RedCat Ascent, and there's a lot more people here today than there usually is, so we're going to try to be as typical in sort of our running and review real-time stuff as possible, but there's going to be a lot of chatter in the background, I'm sure, so I apologize for that in advance. Now, this is the new RedCat Ascent, and there have not been many changes from what you get in the box, but I have made some of the modifications that they include, including the 20% underdrive, which was significantly easier to do on this transmission than I would have imagined. But I didn't see any instructions anywhere, whether they were in the online manual, they weren't there, nothing in the printed material that was included with the truck. So I had to go online and watch another video to see how it's done. And I'll link to that video down below so you can check that out as well. I got the red one, which is the one-piece body, and it's not as compy as the blue body. The blue body has the pinched front. This one does not have that. Also has a pinched rear, I think, too, and the bed is removable. But I actually quite like the red look of this body. It looks quite nice. It doesn't have quite the compy front bumper and narrow kind of track that the blue one does, but you know what? We're going to make it work. In addition to changing the gearing in the transmission to underdrive, I also checked my endpoints to make sure I was getting maximum steering from that servo. I also adjusted the front links so they're proper high clearance links instead of side clearance links. Factory installed those incorrectly, but I set them up properly. And that's it. There's no drag brake in this Hexfly ESC. This is like basically a Hobbywing 1040, so it's pretty bottom of the barrel in terms of the performance of that ESC. But we're going to see what we can do with it today. This is Acorn Talk with Scale Builders Guild. Do our best today to stay away from the cliff edges. But we're going to see, you know, what this truck can do. Now, in its stock form, the first thing I noticed right away is those poor tires have not very much foam. But it's such a lightweight truck that it shouldn't be a big deal. Portal axles, of course, are going to help tremendously in the driving dynamics, of course, clearing more obstacles with that in mind. And the 20% underdrive, which is basically overdrive, is also going to help a lot too. Let's see if we can clear this little gap here. Nice. Now RedCat has kind of purposed this vehicle as a comp or competition style crawler right out of the box. And there's a few things that are different about this one than sort of your typical crawler. It is a flat rail chassis, so it's not a C-channel like most scale trucks. The wheelbase, you can see it's quite pushed out. It is 12.3, but it does push out quite far to the edges, so you're really getting maximum coverage of those tires over the body. And one thing I should mention, I'm not sure it's been mentioned before, the steel chassis, the steel flat rail chassis, does have aluminum shock hoops. So they've got mechanically connected shock hoops. And I think that's sort of like to make sure it's still legal and get you some more scale points in your competitions. It's such an awesome day out today. I kind of understand why there are so many people here. It's a little cool, but not so bad. Now, you get a nice amount of steering angle out of these portals. Let's see if we can get this to lay down here. There we go. Nicely done. let's test its descending capabilities. That's one thing that I think, obviously a drag brake is very important when being able to come down an obstacle, but I'm getting pretty decent kind of, oh yeah. See, the body is also quite helpful in these scenarios because it's nice and narrow. Just going to be able to flex it out over that. There we go. Yeah, that's one way to do it. There's one thing I always like to test when I come out to this location, and that's there's this wall face over here, and it's sort of like about as compy as it gets. Which is, for me, that's not saying much, but I do like to test this feature and see just how capable any trucks are. This is obviously, it's pretty much straight up, and I haven't had a truck yet make it as far as I can recall. But that's pretty darn good. Obviously, we're resting on that ledge there. I don't think we're going to be able, obviously not going to be able to get up there, but it's always fun to try. Not a chance. But this side over here is usually a little easier, and it's got a great balance. Truck does have a good balance. I mean, it's all about kind of finding the right lines, right? Sometimes you need a little wheel speed, and I think this is one of those situations. Not quite the way I wanted to do it, but it did it. The body rub is not something I'm a big fan of. And I'm noticing these shocks don't articulate as much as others. And I know that they've gone for that sort of pre-set up droop. There's an internal spring and an external spring on these shocks. And I know that also, now I'm getting pretty bound up here, as you can see. The ESC whine definitely is fairly annoying. It's something that you either can tolerate or you can't, depending on your age. Different frequencies get either more or less annoying, depending on how old you are. I'm not fully in love with it, but like I've mentioned before, it is an RTR. Most people would probably swap out these electronics for a smoother experience and a drag brake, more quieter operation, all of those things. But I think most importantly, we have to remember, this is really cheap. $289 for the red-bodied model, $299 for the blue body. And it's a great place to start if you're getting into more competitive rock crawling, or you want to have one of those more comp style chassis. This is an excellent place to start. I honestly, I feel that way. I think this obstacle's doable. Just have to find the right kind of point of entry. That's not it. Oh, almost. There we go. Nice. Having that underdrive right out of the box is pretty great. It definitely makes for a much more enjoyable comp style experience. This is obviously set up to be that way. It's not going to be a trail truck, especially if you leave it with that 20% overdrive. You can, of course, go for a 10% overdrive if that's more your fancy, or as it's set up out of the box, 0%. It's pretty decent at side hilling, as you can see. I mean, all the weight, now that I've changed where the battery location is pretty much right up front. That Hexfly servo that's included is a pretty good amount of torque for a stock RTR servo. It's definitely outperforming a lot of other RTR servos. Ooh. I'd love to have that pop down a little bit. Yes, there we go. Excellent. Having that underdrive really does help with steering radius. It is pretty tight and will do some pretty good, oops, decently strong servo, not fast, pretty noisy, but it definitely works doing what it's supposed to, which is turn the truck effectively. Man, what a beautiful day for this. This is great. It's so nice to have this so close to home. These rocks are really spectacular and really do make for a very fun outing. If you're in this area, Milton, it's called Rattlesnake Point. Let's see if we can try to get it hung up on those portals. Yeah, that would have been the place. Normal truck would have definitely hit that rock right there and just stayed in one place. That's great. While I'm not a huge fan of portals, on a comp truck, I'm definitely seeing the value. I mean, I have them on my Class 1 Porsche. They weren't on my Class 2. Now, having a drag brake there would have been helpful, but still made it down. In these downhill situations, having a drag brake is absolutely necessary. Else you end up with one of those. And not so close to the cliff, but close enough. I think, overall, the most desirable thing about the Ascent is its price. You get a very nice performing truck for not a lot of money. There are certainly improvements to be made. I think that's pretty fair to say about, I really want to get up there. There we go. That's the better route. Yes. I'm using that tree to its advantage. There's always going to be upgrades to be made. That's fair for any truck out of the box. But this is a really good first effort. RedCat's certainly taken a lot of inspiration from a lot of the aftermarket comp chassis sort of providers. I don't think I could confidently say which ones, but it's definitely taken a look at the competition and found a way to put together a nice little package that is really affordable, can help get you started, and will be pretty darn decent right out of the box. As for changes I would make right out of the box, motor and ESC I think is the first things I would do. 550 can's not bad, but that 1040 hobby wing is not acceptable in my mind. You have to have a drag brake in a vehicle like this. Definitely wheels and tires. I think that's mandatory. Probably a stronger servo, although a kit version of this, I'd be interested to see where they would price that, because that that would change things quite a bit. No wheels, no tires, no body, bumpers, you know, you get all the other stuff, but I bet you they could get that price down to under $200. If you could get this for $189 as a chassis, and then you're talking. I think that's a more interesting and more compelling reason to pick one up. But if you are getting started and you want a turnkey solution that will perform quite well right out of the box, I think you have to take a look at the RedCat Ascent. They did a decent job. And you know, it's so strange. Every single video I saw of this truck before I came out, I looked at it and I was like, that body looks too tall. But now that I see it, it doesn't look that bad. It looks pretty good. They certainly made the cuts in the right places. And it's pretty, like I said, pretty compelling choice. Definitely something I would consider if I was a beginner. Pros, pretty great climbing capability right out of the box. Decent steering radius, pretty easy to modify and change things. That transmission is set up quite nicely to allow for that. Changing in underdrive. You could actually probably, you know, just bring out your 2mm hex wrench and the gearing, and you could change this on the trail without much effort. 2 screws is all it takes. Well, 3 technically, I guess. More pros, it's got a very lightweight body. It's quite easy to move the weight around if you need to. You could even place your battery right up front and move your ESC to one of the sliders. It's easy to get the body on and off. There are 2 body clips in the back and it's hinged in the front, which makes it really easy. Somebody is flying a drone. Tires seem to hook up pretty well. I'd love to see a better foam in there. So let's move on to the cons. ESC without a drag brake, unacceptable. Foams in the tires, and they're absolute garbage. They're not good at all. That's definitely a place I would spend some money and get a good upgrade on. The wheels are glue-on, so you have to bake those tires off if you want to use them. I would have preferred to see the pinched one-piece. I think they should have just done one version, a pinched one-piece body. I think that would have been better. I don't see the need to have just the cab only. Pro, definitely price. It's definitely good value there. Here's another point of possible con. The link mounts are quite low on the actual axle. As you can see, they kind of stick out there a bit, so that could be a pinch point or drag point for sure. I feel like there was another con, but I can't think of it right now. Maybe there isn't one. I thought it'd be fun to just come out and just kind of drive it. Rather than do a traditional on the bench portion, it's kind of nice to just get it out and see how it goes right away. You know, save you all the aggravation of staring at my ugly face. More of the truck, less of your ugly face. It is very lightweight. It's, you know, it really is set up to be a comp truck, without a doubt. That's the intention here. And it does a pretty decent job of starting in that, I don't think we're going to make it. I'm taking lines that aren't, they're never going to, you would never be able to get up this. Anyway, too hard. But I'm, you know, pushing it. I want to see what it's capable of. Yeah, that, I would have preferred the pinched body. I'll say that right now. I'll put a power wagon on it. What are we going to do here? Nothing. Now that it's flipped over, you can see how smooth that underbelly is. It's very, like, you look at it, it's very comp. Your spurs up front connected to the motor, which goes back to a transmission and transfer case. It's all sort of one piece that gets mounted in the middle. Smooth sliders, and everything else is pretty typical. Here's a better look at the chassis too, with the body off. You can see they've done a nice job of putting all of the electronics right up here. Your ESC and servo tucked nicely into the front there. Your 550 can 42 turn motor right up front as well, spur gear, drive shaft connecting to the transmission / transfer case, and these two screws are the ones you pull to remove the back half of the transmission in order to change your underdrive gears. They also, nice little touch here, added these little foam pads on the back of the bed so it doesn't bang around so much. Aluminum bodied shocks, like I said, with an external spring, and there is an internal spring inside there as well. And when I moved my shock position forward, it actually did give it a bit more travel in the rear. It was quite firm a setup, and you can see even up front there is not a lot of travel there, up or down. It doesn't do a ton of articulating. It's almost like a bump stop right away. You usually, when you get the truck out of the box, there is a set of mounting positions for a longer, wider battery here. But I've opted to move the battery up here, which is a much more comp sort of style setup. If you've got any questions or comments, of course, put one down below. I love reading through your feedback, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. Oh, there's another con that I just thought of. The shocks. They're aluminum bodied, and they look like a comp shock, but they don't perform quite the way I think they should. They're good, but they don't offer a ton of travel, up or down. And I think that's part of the reason that it doesn't sort of flex itself out over obstacles and wants to tip a little more easily than it probably should. And maybe on that note, we'll end this video. If you are interested in picking up an Ascent, I'll be sure to put a link down below. Those are of course affiliate links, which do help me and the channel help you make more videos. So that's gonna do it. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks to RedCat for sending me the new Ascent. It's certainly an interesting vehicle.